I got to thinking this morning that it might be a good idea to come on here and talk a little bit about past life regression and specifically just my experience with it. And I've had essentially the blessing of being able to go back into multiple past lives, actually. And there's one that more recently probably has had the most impact on me, and that's probably, what I'll share with you all today. I'm trying to think of where to start with this, and probably the best place to start is just sort of describing the environment that I found myself in. And it was really interesting. I saw lots of, really tall gold pillars, and it looked like I was in a hall of some sort. And the perspective that I had was essentially looking at myself from a distance, and it looked like I was sitting on a gold throne, and I was dressed in white and wearing what seemingly to me was a lot of, gold jewelry and adornments in my hair, gold around my waist, what appeared to be like a very beautiful, like bejeweled collar on my dress. And as I got closer and sort of, I guess my spirit really settled into that body, and versus being in the perspective of outside of the body and looking down at it, and being in the body and looking out through its eyes, the one thing that immediately struck me was that this hall that appeared so grand to me and really very regal and royal no longer took that form once I was grounded in that body. Instead, looking out through those eyes, what I was seeing was, yes, there was this gold all around me, but one, the hall was empty. And in the distance, all I was seeing was black. And as I really started to firmly ground myself in that body and not just look around me, but look down at myself, I started to notice the things that I thought were, beautiful jewels were in fact not that. For instance, around my waist, I had assumed that I was wearing a beautiful, like gold jeweled, like belt of some sort, like a chain belt. But instead I found that it was just rope that was, sort of made out of a golden metallic thread. What I thought were, jeweled adornments in my hair were also that same rope. The bejeweled collar that was around my neck wasn't in fact that. If anything, it was just, a colorful stitch pattern around my neck. And it became very clear, where I was. I was in Atlantis, and not only was I in Atlantis, but the fact that I was wearing white in that environment, it immediately sort of signified for me that I was actually a slave. And what further confirmed that for me is, not just the acknowledgement of the ropes, but also seeing that this, the rope that was on my crown and just kind of flowing through my hair had what was, sort of like, it was sort of styled as bangs. So, some of this rope was like, sort of covering my face. And in that moment, it was very clear that I was an Atlantean sorceress, meaning someone that was gifted and had special abilities. But in this environment, as I mentioned, I was a slave. I somehow had become enslaved. And my gifts were essentially under the ownership of a master. And those ropes and the white of my robe were, identifiers of my enslavement. The ropes around my waist basically told people that I had no control over my body or, what I did or where I went. But I think what hit me the hardest was the ropes that were, essentially covering the crown, where, all of your knowledge, where all of your psychic ability, where all of your healing and all of your gifts really reside. That rope was covering my crown, and the bangs essentially of rope were covering not just, my physical eyes, but also my third eye and my ability to truly see, basically sort of limiting my sight. And then on top of it, those ropes, the end of them were touching my lips, which was a signifier of me not having the ability to speak. And as a sorceress, a lot of the gifts that a sorceress has, they are tied to your mind, your ability to see, and your ability to speak. And all of these things were under the control of a master. And a lot of people wonder about past life regression and, what role it can play in your current life. And really going back to that time, and coming back to, my current body and this current life that I'm in, it allowed me to recognize that in this life, that enslavement still existed. And I say that in my work and in my personal life and just throughout my career. Just in general, all my life I've known that I was different and that I had gifts, and I couldn't necessarily vocalize them, till now. I'm 44, I'm about to be 45, and it took a long time for me to get to this place, and it's because I was carrying over the life that I had then, and also, as I said, the enslavement that I was in that past life. There have been plenty of moments in my life where I've had a unique thought or saw things very differently and didn't feel that it was okay